The impact of social networks nowadays already exceeds all we have ever expected. So they create a whole lot of new fascinating opportunities for marketing, for research, for industry.
You've got to say MROCs and so on have had a really, I mean, they were in existence 5 years ago, but they've really blossomed out like mushrooms. And again, they've spawned industries. I mean, there's whole companies now that are based around doing market research communities that didn't exist 5 years ago.
It used to be boring and now it's exciting. That's one way to define it. But I think there's a lot to learn in data mining, because the types of data now is very different. It's not just customer records, sales records. It's qualitative type data that you're trying to quantify and build models and predict. So I think there's a lot of challenges in the field.
Social media has impacted market research tremendously in the way that we now can, we understand emotion can be picked up via text. So I think that's critical for the success of market research as we move forward. That we can look at context of what people say in text, whether they articulate differently than maybe verbal, but we can pick up on that now.
Well, I think there have been a great many changes in the way that we do things. Obviously, technology has played a role. New platforms, new online platforms, communities. I think those things are changing the way we do things, but I think there's a more significant change that's going on, and it's down to how. I suppose it's what it will have implications for what we do, and I think the change is coming about through a greater understanding of psychology and why we make decisions the way we do and how we make decisions the way we do.
People are more and more interested in how the brain operates. And how we can use this knowledge to better predict humans' behavior. It's turned out that the words are not as good predictors as neurophysiological processes. And because more and more people are interested in it, the knowledge and the technicality of neuroscience are more and more user-friendly.
You know, you ask someone a question, they will give you an answer, whether or not it's the truth. And often people just don't know why they do things. They find it very difficult to articulate why they do things a certain way.
The Homo sapiens is the most emotional creature, which means that emotion drives behavior. Therefore, the big challenge is how we can measure this emotion. And I think it's a revolution that happened 10 years ago in the academy, but there are still people who don't know.
Predicting the efficiency of advertising from simply how people feel about the ad. And if you make people feel great about your brand, you draw them to you, okay? And it means that when they're next at the shelf or next making a decision, when they're confronted with a really difficult set of brands and choices that they have to make, rather than answering the question, what do I think about this? They answer the question, how do I feel about this? And they go for the pack and the brand that makes them feel good. And it's that kind of heuristic, effect heuristic, that shortcut that means that emotional advertising is the way forward.
Availability of new data. So new social media data, new social network data, online data that has become available. And simply using that data improved all the models tremendously. A lot more than I've ever seen with a simple technique improving the models. So I think using this additionally available data has become the major trend in this domain.
Over the last 5 years, coming back to that question, we generated lots of information. And we thought, when we were going to do that, now we know everything. But what happened, in fact, that it was just more difficult to find your way through the amount of information. So I am not convinced that there is a gold mine there. I think there is lots of mess and rubbish and crap data there. We need to find a way how to cut through that clutter.
There are proper ways to deal with this data overload. And I always start from the perspective, get all the data and use all the data and just see what comes out of your data mining models. In some intelligent way of selecting data and just try to use everything. And most of the time there is complementary power in the different data types.